Today we're going to be testing how good I can get a Hades in a 1 week period. If you don't already know what Hades is, it's a roguelike dungeon crawler which is known for its difficulty, where you go through the entire game with 1 life technically, and if you die you have to restart from the very beginning. And the reason why I say technically 1 life is because you can buy extra lives up to 3 for your runs, which gives you extra chances throughout your run. But let's get into what I'll be actually attempting throughout this 1 week of playing Hades. The first thing I'm going to have to accomplish is actually beating the game on its normal difficulty, as there are 3 different difficulty options within this game. The first and easiest option is God mode, which can be chosen in the settings menu and is catered towards people that want to go through the story and not be faced with the difficulties that lies within the game. The second option is normal mode, which is the standard difficulty of Hades and is automatically chosen for you once you enter the game. The final stage of difficulty is hell mode, where you're given the pact of punishment, where the more heat you add to the gauge from these options, the more difficult the game gets. Now, just being absolutely honest here, I have played this game before but never actually beat it. I ended up giving up since I managed to get to the Hades fight so many times just to fall short and die before reaching the end of the game. But this was about 1 or 2 years ago, so it certainly has been a while. So the first thing that I actually have to complete is beating the game on its normal difficulty before I go anywhere near hell mode. So on day 1, that was the task at hand. I started my first set of runs so that I was able to get back into the swing of things, as well as getting some of the basic upgrades that I needed, like Chthonic Vitality, which gave me extra HP every time I entered the chamber, and Death Defiance, which gives me 1 extra life on death per rank. My main weapon of choice when playing this game was the Eternal Spear, which I felt the most comfortable playing with since the dash strike was very easy to use, and it actually kept enemies in place when attacking. The furthest I got on the first day was to the Theseus and the Minotaur fight, which I was pretty surprised about. I didn't think I'd get that far on the first day, to be honest. And on day 2, I was actually able to make a decent amount of progress, where I was able to actually defeat Theseus and make it all the way to the Hades fight for the first time, which obviously wasn't the greatest attempt, as I didn't even manage to get past the first phase. But the more times I made it to this fight, the more comfortable I got with him, which is an absolute lie because I never ever got comfortable with his mechanics and just swang for the fences every time I got to this section. And honestly, I wasn't even able to get past Theseus consistently, as I would always get to the fight with like 1 Death Defiance left and end up dying. So it was a struggle, man, but I had no intention of giving up whatsoever, because day 3 was on the horizon and I knew I would be able to beat this game by today, even if it took me the entire day to do it, which in reality it took me about an hour to do. But looking back at the fight, I had probably the luckiest boons going into it, which consisted of the triple attack boon and Artemis's Call, which inflicted the killing blow to end the fight. And with that, and halfway into the week, I was able to beat Hades on normal mode. But with only 3 days into the challenge, I wasn't gonna stop there. No. There was much more of the game to play, which meant more things to complete, and by that I mean hell mode. As I've been talking throughout this video and explained before, this is the harder version of the game, which comes with the pact of punishment, which makes the game way harder than it normally is. But to do this, I had to start a brand new game file, which as you'd expect, makes me start all over again with absolutely none of my upgrades from my original file. So just like the first 2 days, I farmed up my basic upgrades that I needed to progress through my runs and get the weapons I needed, which I did on 5 heat since I didn't really understand how the pact of punishment gimmick worked until after I got the spear. And it wasn't until the 4th day when I decided to up the heat to 11, where I would increase the enemy's health by 30% and let the game decide which boons I choose by maxing out the approval process, which was the worst thing in the world, as sometimes I would be forced to swap out certain boons because the game forces me to. But now with the pact of punishment sorted, it was time to grind, and grind did I do. I played this game for hours, and when I say hours, I mean hours. I sat there and died over and over again. It was absolutely gut-wrenching how close I would get to beating the game just to die because I made a stupid mistake. Day 5 and 6 went by with just failed attempts over and over again. I was just making no progress at all, and even still constantly dying to Theseus and Minotaur. And just like that, day 7 had arrived, and this was it. This was the final day I had to test how good I really was at the game after hours and hours of practice. This day was a true test to see how much I'd improved throughout the week. But ultimately, I still hadn't improved since I first started hell mode, with me only reaching the Hades fight a total of 2 times within 4.5 hours of gameplay. And at this point, I felt pretty downcast about my performance, as I wasn't able to complete the goal I had set out to do. I wasn't able to walk the walk and certainly not talk the talk. I had to beat this game whether it took 1 week or more. This challenge just became more than just becoming better at a video game. I started to question whether or not I was even good enough to beat this. Well, day 9 had come and I still had no luck, so I decided to change the pact of punishment a bit, which in my opinion is honestly harder, but I guess looks easier. But what I decided to change was to not have the enemies have 30% HP, but 15, so that I'd still have that component of difficulty. But to replace that last amount of heat to make it 11, I increased convenience feed of 40%, which increases the price of everything in the game by 40%. 100%. Seems easier, but in reality, it's a double handicap both financially and physically. And with the pack set in stone, day 9 flew right by with a little more improvement than the other attempts, as right after I changed the pack, I made it to Hades and got to a second phase where I ultimately ended up dying, but I was getting closer to the finish line than where I was before. Day 10 came around and basically every single run that I did, I was able to get past the Theseus boss fight more and more consistently, which was really good, as that was one of the only boss fights I was really struggling with for the longest time. But now that I figured out the Theseus and Minotaur boss fight, the chambers became the next new problem, as finding these snacks for Cerberus became pretty inconvenient, as you're susceptible to losing a lot of HP in these chambers if you're not careful. And with the price being increased, it's very unlikely that you can afford to buy back a Death Defiance or have it given to you by Athena. But I just felt that I was getting closer and closer to beating this, closer than I felt the day before. Heck, I even ended up getting Meg's Keepsake because of how much I played this game. Which brings us to day 11 and my 59th escape attempt. This attempt was probably the weirdest attempt in the entire game for me, as in this run I got two boons that I absolutely hated and always tried to avoid whenever I played the normal game, which were the boon that exploded your special when thrown and the boon that makes you hold your special to actually use it. I hated them both, as I wasn't able to deal backstab damage when I threw my special, and it was really inconvenient to hold down the button to throw the spear, and I ended up getting them both in one run. Just my luck, huh? But that's just it, my luck, because I think it was the gods in this game trying to tell me something, because throughout this entire run I managed to get through every section before Hades without losing a single Death Defiance, which was pretty impressive for my skill level, as I usually lose at least one in the Theseus boss fight, but I didn't. I also managed to get Cerberus' treat on my second try, which almost never happens, but I did, while also having near 400 HP going into the Hades fight, which is insane. But once I gave Cerberus' treats and stepped through the door, I knew the stage was set for my success. And indeed it was, because I went through that entire fight without losing a single Death Defiance and staying above 200 HP the entire fight. Heck, I even forgot I even had Meg's Call, but it was all thanks to the two boons that I hated at the beginning but grew to love in the end, which is really poetic honestly, because I beat the game with two boons I hated and with Artemis's Call, just like I did originally in my first playthrough. But with that done, I think I can confidently say that I did get pretty good at the game in the time I played for and for the heat level I played at. Now, if you're a pro Hades player, let me know in the comments if that's even impressive, because it felt pretty hard when playing. And if you must know, it took me around 29.5 hours to beat Hell Mode with that difficulty and around 45 hours in the game in general. Yeah, I was shocked when I saw that number too. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. Hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you guys did and enjoy this type of content, give this video a like, and while you're down there, subscribe to the channel as well if you want to see more content like this. This video took so long to do, and I really appreciate it if you did. Let me know in the comments down below any other games that you can see me play next, or any other challenges you'd like to see me do. Hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace!